Now, the Supreme Court kicked down the case of Hernandez versus Mesa back to the lower court. That case is the filing by a Mexican citizen suing the Border Patrol for gunning down a bystander on the Mexico side of the border. That one should be a jurisdictional no-brainer. So all in all, it looks like this Supreme Court is possibly leaning conservative amidst a whirlwind of speculation that one of the justices could be on the verge of retiring. Joining me now from Washington, D.C., President of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton. Tom, let's go to the travel ban. We've been saying on this program, first of all, the President of the United States is well within his authority to proffer a travel ban such as this. It's called plenary power. It's read into the United States Constitution. That's number one. Number two, we have to wait officially for a ruling maybe about 6 months from now to see how the court officially decides on this, because this is a temporary stay.
Yeah, that's right. But in the end, though, it looks like what people understand to be the travel ban will be upheld. The only provision that is still alive, or in terms of for the other side, is if you've already in the pipeline, more or less, and you have a relationship with the United States, you're about to come here, you have a family member, you've already applied, you can probably get through. But for everyone else, there is a travel ban, at least temporarily, for 90 days or 120 days. And so they wouldn't have allowed this to go through generally unless the court understood that the Trump administration was likely to win generally as well. So the only arguments now over the specific claims of individual defendants and people, as they say, with a bona fide connection to the United States that is going to be severed as a result of this temporary measure. But it's tremendous news for President Trump. It's a big blow to the anti-Trump liberal judicial activists and some conservatives who should know better at the lower courts. And if I were President Trump, I'd take this as a tremendous affirmation that his instincts were correct, and figure out if there are any additional steps he can take under this rubric to further protect the country from terrorists coming from abroad.
I think it's also a victory, Tom, for the United States Constitution, because in essence what the opposition was doing here is arguing that they were trying to confer constitutional rights on non-U.S. citizens. And this is an important point that's kind of gotten lost in this whole argument. And the left comes out and says how mean it is and it's discriminatory. Well, first of all, any country can deny any foreigner entry into its country, into its borders, for any reason it wants. There is no moral code out there. And we can use whatever litmus test we want within, of course, the law. But this goes to a fundamental doctrine of the United States Constitution, that we are citizens of this country and we are protected by the United States Constitution, and people who are non-citizens are not.
Well, I agree with you. Unfortunately, the court said those non-citizens, at least some of them, have an opportunity to have their day in court, at least before the Supreme Court, come October. I think more significantly, Graham, is that you had these lower court judges substitute their judgment for the president, who we elect to be commander-in-chief, about the nation's security and the steps necessary to protect the nation's security under the laws passed by Congress and under the Constitution. And the judges were acting as they were second-guessing the commander-in-chief's decision on national security with really no basis. No one hired them to do that, and it was really outside their purview as courts. So this was a remarkable victory, at least on this core element of separation of powers, meaning we elect the president to be president, Congress to be Congress, and the courts to apply the law, not make and pretend to be president.
All right, so we were waiting on 6 potential decisions. A few of them have come down. We know of the 6, we have the Trinity Lutheran Church ruling, which I consider a big victory for the First Amendment. This essentially was a case where a church in Missouri was applying for a grant through the state, and the state said no, simply because, in essence, this entity happened to believe in God. So this is a victory for the First Amendment.
That's right. The government or those who don't like religion and the First Amendment protections of it want to wall off religious entities from government benefits, and the Supreme Court said no, not in this case. So it's a nice victory for those of us who think that because you're a Christian or have a particular religious point of view, you should not be able to get any government benefits. It's It's incredible that anyone would think otherwise, but the court had to issue this ruling to affirm what the First Amendment, I think, protects on its face.
Okay, the court also kicking down this Hernandez versus Mesa case to the lower court. To me, this seems to be a simple matter of if a non-U.S. citizen is able to sue the United States government, what does that mean when we go to war, for example, in Afghanistan, and you have some fighter over there wanting to sue the United States government for any kind of harm it had posed on that person while at war?
Yeah, this is an interesting case because as you expressed concern about non-citizens from abroad having access to our courts to go after anyone in the government who makes decisions they don't like or they think harm them, you have this case of a Mexican national who was shot from across the border. You know, it's now the Constitution protects the rights of nationals abroad, or at least across the border. I don't know if that's the case. That should be the case. And the Supreme Court expressed skepticism of that. We'll see what the lower courts do. All
right, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she is 84 years old. Justice Kennedy is 81 years old. Both of those folks are being considered as potential retirees from the bench. What are you hearing regarding Justice Kennedy?
You know, my guess is he was going to retire. Obviously, he hasn't retired yet. I don't think Justice Ginsburg is going to retire, certainly not if she can help it during these 4 years President Trump is in office. You know, Justice Kennedy was the one everyone was betting on here in D.C. would retire, but he didn't announce it today, but it won't prevent him from announcing it later this summer.
All right, so you're predicting that he will retire and he will make the announcement?
I'm guessing he will. Obviously, the fact he hasn't announced it yet is an indication he may not, okay. But we'll see.
Okay, a couple of things you're working on at Judicial Watch. I can't let you go without talking about them. You're going after the Obama bills. This would be all the records, Secret Service, travel during the Obama years. You're also pointing out at Judicial Watch that, hey, this unmasking material is now part of the Obama library and that we ought to have access to it, but apparently there's a 5-year moratorium for presidents for this kind of information. You're also going after the Comey memos, all kinds of stuff going on at Judicial Watch.
Yeah, that Obama library story is especially interesting. We asked the National Security Council, which provides support to the President, the White House on national security matters, for records about the unmasking, the Russia collusion issue, the DNC hacking. And we received a letter back last month saying that all Obama records have been sent to the Obama Presidential Library, and they gave us their address and phone number and email. Under typically the law, those records wouldn't be available under the Freedom of Information Act for at least 5 years, but the president in the meantime can get them, Congress can get them, and if you're suing and there's a subpoena and the subpoena targets these records, they can be gotten as well. But it shows you and suggests there's a bit of a shell game going on in terms of hide the ball on these records, and now we know some key records are now at the National Archivists for intrepid investigators to pursue.
Like yourselves, and you're doing great work there. We'd like to get some answers regarding the Obama administration, and particularly regarding the election of 2016, its role in unmasking innocent Americans, a violation of the Fourth Amendment, which we know you care about and we care about on this program a heck of a lot. Tom, great work, and thank you.